yesterday. Kyle Schwarber, 5-year extension. Rob Thompson, 2-year extension. Curious to just get your opinion on both of those moves for the Phillies.
Well, the Thompson was a 1-year extension. He's under contract now for 2 more years. I think that wasn't surprising. Dave Dombrowski's talked about he doesn't like to have managers operate as lame ducks. It doesn't change if the Phillies decide at some point after next year that they want to make a change, it doesn't really prevent them from doing that. What it does prevent, I think, is if the Phillies get off to a slow start in April, whispers and murmurs about, do you make a change? So I think that's where things stand on Thompson. He gets the 1-year extension. With Kyle Schwarber, I think it's the right deal. It is unusual to see a 33-year-old DH get a 5-year deal, and maybe it's not great to have that spot pretty much locked down as you have some other guys age. But Kyle Schwarber has just been so good the last 2 years that it was hard to imagine him not on the Phillies moving forward. And I think ultimately they made the right move bringing him back.
Okay, when you say the right move, the right move is based on that you feel they're on the right track, that this organization's on the right track?
Well, just that I think they would have been a worse team without Kyle Schwarber. And not to say you couldn't have pivoted to sign someone else potentially, but I think between Kyle Schwarber hitting 56 home runs last year, and I don't love to talk about leadership stuff, but it is clear in how effusive not only the Phillies but the rest of the teams around the league that is a real factor with Kyle Schwarber. I think they would have been a worse team and a worse organization without him. So by bringing him back, I think that was the right move for those reasons.
Tim Kelly joining us here. So, Tim, the next move is JT Realmuto eventually gets re-signed. I mean, it's like the worst-kept secret in the world, as well as Kyle Schwarber's. So what do you do after that? Because it doesn't seem like the Phillies are going to have all this money to sign one of these big free agents. Dave Dombrowski's going to have to get creative and make some trades. Who do you believe are the movable assets for the Phillies that you expect them to actually shop and get players of relevancy in return?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't know exactly what the answer is. I do think JT Realmuto will end up being back, and that's probably the best move they can make, but I think it's fair to have reservations about re-signing a 35-year-old catcher that had the 700 OPS last season, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously, 2 years would be better than 3 if that's what it ends up as. As far as the assets on the team, I think there would be interest in Alec Bohm. It's just, you're going to have to backfill that position. And as flawed as Alec Bohm is, there's not that many right-handed hitters around the league right now. The Phillies don't have a ton of right-handed hitters, and you're talking about taking Castellanos out of the lineup. JT hasn't been re-signed yet. So if you move Alec Bohm, you have to have added a right-handed hitter at another spot in the lineup. So I think guys like Bohm, Stott, Marsh, there would be interest in them. Matt Strahm is also somebody that's been talked about. There would be interest in those guys. You do have to consider backfilling, but I agree with you. I know Dave Dombrowski said the other day he doesn't like the term running it back, but they do need to shake things up a little bit. And he has to get creative because it is hard right now to find right-handed hitters, especially outfielders. That is a reality in baseball right now. But the Phillies do not want to come back with the same team next year. So it's a tricky balance. You had a really good team. You won 96 games, but it clearly wasn't enough when the playoffs rolled around.
But, Tim, where does the faith come that the young guys within the organization are ready to step up? Other than, if we're talking about Painter and Miller specifically, what would they be basing any kind of confidence that they're ready to step up at the major league level to help the 2026 team?
Well, with Painter, you are banking on the second year back from Tommy John surgery that he's just better, that the stuff is still really good, and he had control problems, and that's not uncommon for a guy first year back from Tommy John, and I don't think they managed expectations particularly well last year. So we'll see. I mean, with Aiden Miller, I think that's more of like a second-half possibility. Justin Crawford's the one you can base it off of how well he hit at AAA. That is the case. He has hit and stolen bases at every level. I still have some skepticism in terms of how frequently he puts the ball on the ground. I want to see how that approach works at the majors, but I would have been skeptical a guy hitting the ball on the ground 60% of the time that would have been successful at AAA, and he hit 330. So he's earned that opportunity to step up, and you do have to have some degree of faith. And I think it's easier to have faith in April and May than in August and September, and give these guys some leash to go through some growing pains, and hopefully by the time the postseason rolls around, they're ready to be contributors. I don't think you're asking any of them to be the faces of your team next year. Painter could very well develop into that. You're not asking him to come in and be your ace next season. You're asking him to come in and be your number 4 or 5 stars. So I think that's where it comes in. You're talking about mixing these guys in. It's a lot easier to mix them in with Schwarber back, if Bryce Harper has a good season, with Trey Turner, than it would be if you're on a young team trying to compete.
Tim Kelly with us on the Comcast Biz Hotline, covers the Phillies for On Pattison, live from the winter meetings in Orlando, Florida. Tim, you wrote an article on him. I'm going to try to be as respectful as possible, all right? And I'm not talking about your work. I'm talking about how the Phillies view him. A guy that couldn't find a way on the team until finally just there were so many injuries. Now, all of a sudden, Otto Kemp is a World Series champion in the eyes of Dave Dombrowski. Are you telling me that there's a chance that he is a big part of their plans when they basically refused to bring him up and just kind of had to? He didn't really do all that much, and now the Phillies are loving Otto Kemp.
Well, September, he did hit the cover off the ball. He was excellent in September. I share some of your skepticism. I think part of what they're making the effusive praise for him is that he played through some really pretty serious injuries, a knee injury that was pretty bad after fouling a ball. He played through that through June, even after getting options. So I think there is a level of respect, and that's part of what you're seeing. But I do think they like his offensive profile and think he could be a contributor. Now, what that exactly means, I think, remains to be seen. He really struggled at third base last year. I know that is his natural position. I thought he looked better in left field. So if their thought is that he can be a platoon partner for Brandon Marsh in left field, I get it. That makes perfect sense. I don't think that he's a guy that's going to have 500 at-bats next season, but he can be a contributor, and they like his makeup. I get that.
I got to tell you, Tim, it's I'm left. I just wonder what anything that they've got to trade at the major league level, what they can get for it. I'm not left very enthused. I'm going to try to be optimistic because I think the starting rotation looks paper thin, and I worry about that. I worry about this starting rotation, and past this year, I worry about what they're going to do with it.
Well, I mean, you have one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball in Christopher Sanchez. You are banking on Zach Wheeler coming back healthy and Aaron Nola to some degree rebounding. But
I can't bank on that. I'm not banking on Nola.
Yeah, maybe not. But, I mean, Jesus Luzardo was one of the better pitchers in baseball last season. Like, I think you have – if you're talking about Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler being like your number 3 and 4 starters, how many got – and you have Painter waiting in the wings. How many teams in baseball have a better – setup than that? I get that there's some uncertainty relative to what there's been in past years, but I still think 25 teams would like to have the Phillies starting pitcher.
Tim, listen, man, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the warmer weather.
Thanks.
In Orlando, Florida. Get back safe. You keep up the great work. We'll be reading all your stuff while you're down there.
Thank you, Tim.
Unfortunately, it's not very warm down here, but I know it's warmer than in Philly.
Yeah, it's warmer than it is in Philly.
You stop it right now.
Thanks, Tim. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.